Welcome to The Path. This podcast is a production of the men's ministry of First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Welcome back to the Path Podcast. I'm Jeff Tarkington along with Foster Carney, and today we are pleased to have our special guest, Wes Copelin. Wes this recently retired from the United States Army. I'm going to let him tell more about his career and everything so we can get it firsthand from him. But welcome to the Path Podcast, Wes.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
So I'm excited about this. Because over the past few days, I've learned a little bit about Wes's background through a mutual friend, and that actually put us in contact with each other to do this podcast and said, man, I got this guy for you. He would be great for your podcast. He's doing some amazing things. I'm like, okay, thanks. So he hooked us up through a text message, and then Wes and I got to talk yesterday for a while. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Trying to let you down.
Yeah. But just to get started, if you would, just give us an introduction of yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff, the nuts and bolts of you.
Nuts and bolts of me, yeah. So, my name's Wes Copelin. Grew up in Springfield, Missouri originally, and joined the Army at the ripe old age of 17 in the reserves at first, and then I went active duty a couple of years later, and was a first combat engineer in the 101st Airborne Division, where my job was to go out on the roads and basically look for bombs in Iraq to dispose of them before they could hurt anyone. I got back from that deployment and then tried out for Special Forces and made it and became a Green Beret and did that for the next 17 years, I guess, something like that. And then I just retired. And so now I'm involved in a few different things. Now that I'm retired, I have options for the first time in my life. So I really got interested in cybersecurity, and so I started my own LLC called Riding Hood Solutions, where basically I help people figure out what their blind spots are in the digital landscape. But then I also work with a nonprofit called Beacon Rescue, where we do two things really. One is disaster response, where we help communities get on their feet immediately following a disaster. But also my primary role is to work in the anti-human trafficking space. So we get in the digital world, so to speak, to try to track down victims online.
That's awesome. So you did 20 years, right?
Yeah, 20 years.
So what year was that you went into the Army? Was it around 2004?
Yeah, so I went in the reserves in 2003. I think I think my birthday was early March, and I think I joined up maybe 2 or 3 days after my birthday, and then that same month was when the Iraq invasion kicked off. So my mom was really happy with me.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, we were in Afghanistan. The country was at that time, so we were a country at war. How did that affect your family and everything? You going into the military in a time of war?
They knew I was going no matter what. I remember my mother, she's deceased now, but I remember her saying at the time, when I was 17, your parents have to sign off on you to join up, or else you have to wait till you're 18. And for whatever reason, I was just too gung-ho for my own good, so I had to go as a 17-year-old. Basically, I went to basic training between junior and senior year, and then came back a year later.
Is that called like deferred enlistment?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, split op or something. They got a deferred enlistment or split option. I can't remember what they call it nowadays, but I think they still do it. But yeah, they were really conflicted about it, but they knew, like, hey, this is the path I want to walk. This is what I feel called to do, and they were pretty supportive of me, actually, believe it or not, to go ahead. Now, they had their reservations, and they're really concerned, but I was reassuring them by saying, the war's going to last like a week or two. I don't know. It's not.
And then 20 years later, it's still going on?
Yeah, 20 years and 7 deployments later, whatever.
Yeah. So did you have family in the military? What was your draw to the military?
So I had a grandfather in the Navy who he did maybe 3 years or something like that, but I think it was during the Korea time frame. He didn't do a lot in Korea, but I think he was maybe involved there, like transporting prisoners or something. I didn't have a ton of real familial experiences there. Really, the biggest recruiter for me is probably the biggest recruiter for a lot of guys, and that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
I was, I don't know, in 7th or 8th grade whenever Saving Private Ryan came out, and I remember watching that and just being like terrified, like there's no way in the world I could do that. And then a little time went by, and I started thinking, I wonder if I could do that. And then a little more time went by, and I was like, I'm not saying I want to go storm the beaches of Normandy here, but I think I want to be the kind of guy that would. And so
right.
that really drew me to it. And eventually I started getting more and more interested in it. And as time went on, I remember I had a family friend. My grandfather was a preacher, and this guy, his parents had gone to the church for years. This guy was a Force Recon Marine. And he was like this guy I really put up on a pedestal. Like, I want to be just like him. He did some really incredible things in Desert Storm and Somalia and stuff like that. And so I just knew that this is the thing I want to. Like, I want to be like that guy. And so he kind of talked me into, believe it or not, the Army.
Did you pick combat engineer?
So the only reason I became a combat engineer was because I knew I wanted to be in the reserves because I wanted to do college first. Really, my mom kind of wanted me to do college first. And that was the most hardcore thing you could do in the reserves. Like, there wasn't a special forces, or I don't think there was an infantry in the reserves. Kind of find out there is in the National Guard. I just didn't know that.
Right.
And so, but yeah, combat engineer, like, people are telling me about it, and they say, yeah, you get to work with explosives and landmines and booby traps. And I'm like, sign me up for that. And I didn't know until later on.
And then you're going on that is filled with IEDs.
Yeah.
And combat engineer, or I was going to, was Hurt Locker before or after you made that decision? Because those are combat engineers in the movie.
Yeah, that was
Hurt
after.
Locker.
Yeah.
Okay. So you weren't trying to be Jeremy Renner.
No, exactly not. Yeah. Yeah. That suit wasn't for me. That's not my thing. That was the ODU guys, but it was different stuff, whatever. But yeah, I was very, I don't know. Like, I thought, like, yeah, explosives, blowing stuff up. That's got me written all over it. Yeah.
It does sound cool. Yeah.
So you grew up in Springfield, Missouri, went into the Army really at 17. What were you into in high school? Were you into sports or anything like that?
Yeah, so I played football. I was on the track team also. And my first, I guess I really didn't do much my freshman year, but like sophomore through junior, I did a lot of that stuff. And then when I came back from boot camp, I knew I wanted to stay in shape for going back to AIT, because I'd heard of people, gaining weight or whatever. Next thing you know, they're not able to ship. So I didn't want that to be me. So I joined the 2 mile team for the track team, and
That sounds absolutely miserable.
I hated it at first, and then over time got better at it. And I'll say it was the best decision I ever made for that year, because I went back to AIT, and they gave out a little award at the end of it for they call it the high PT award. Like, whoever scores the highest on their fitness scores, and I ended up winning it because the track team didn't mess around when it came to getting you in shape. But
do you feel like playing football and being involved in sports, did that help prepare you for your life in the military?
Yeah, 100%. Like, if for no other reason, I think it'll teach you how to be a good teammate. And I think if you go into the military thinking you're going to be an individual, there might be a job out there for you to do well at, but really it's a team sport. Like, I don't really care what branch you're in. So I think if for no other reason, that's a huge piece of it. But I think there's also the introduction to, like, shared suffering with your fellow teammate is a big piece of it when you're out in 2 days doing conditioning, and it's 100 degrees outside, and having to do bear crawls up and down the field or whatever. Like, that was a little taste of what was to come, I guess.
With all sports, there's a lot of structure to it, but especially with football, I could see that really helping prepare you for that military life. You definitely can't do anything on your own in football.
100%.
You might see a really good player be able to kind of dominate a game, but if they're out there alone, they're not going to.
100%.
You're not running, like in basketball, you can run an isolation play for your star player. You can't do that in football so much. You got to depend on everybody. You got to have an offensive line, a defensive line, and all those people. And I would think that is very comparable just to life. You're not going to make it on your own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a offensive lineman, and I really wasn't a very big guy either. So that kind of I don't know if the coach had it in for the quarterback or what, but what I learned out of that, though, is everybody on the team plays a role. Even if it's not the glamorous role, you're not the guy getting the touchdown or making the interception or whatever. Your whole job is just to keep someone from tackling your guy with the ball. That's right. Your whole job as an offensive lineman. And what I learned later on, especially as an engineer, my job wasn't necessarily to kick doors and shoot bad guys. My job was just to keep the roads from being rigged to blow. It's not a very glamorous mission, but it kept other people doing their job, which later on in my career, I started to learn that, that logistical aspect of the profession plays a huge role in whether or not you're going to be successful. So I think, maybe football kind of, in a weird way, kind of helped plant that seed.
Yeah, and like when you were a Green Beret, the special forces and then the different branches, they get a lot of the glory because it's the cool job.
Yeah.
But without like the logistical side, y'all can't do that job.
Yeah.
You don't want to be stuck out there and have no no supplies coming back to you.
100%.
You're not going to last very long.
Yeah. There's an old saying that, amateurs talk about tactics, pros talk about logistics. And it's very true because, your tactics go to nothing once you've run out of bullets.
Right. You're not too effective when you don't have any ammunition.
Yeah.
Or food.
That too.
What is it? Long time, you can't move an army on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is so true. So you're early on in your military career. You're a combat engineer. At what point did it see, hey, these guys in these funny-looking green hats, that looks kind of cool. Looks like something I want to do.
So actually, it's before I was even in the military. I remember there was a Discovery Channel documentary that came out while I was still in high school. This is even before 9/11, which happened when I was a sophomore in high school. Basically, like, this whole thing was just kind of going into Army Special Operations. They did the little, tour on Ranger School, which I never got to do, but then they get into what the Green Berets were, and it showed them, kind of working, by with and through people to overthrow like a hostile government or something like that. But at a certain point in the documentary, it talks about this team in Desert Storm. Later on, I found out it was an Operational Attachment Alpha 525. These guys got stranded behind enemy lines on a reconnaissance mission, and this is like 8 guys, and all of a sudden, like hundreds of Iraqis show up to come after them. And long story short, these 8 guys destroy this 100+ man unit, right? Like, they just whooped up on them hardcore. I remember seeing this thinking, man, whatever that is, I want to do that. These guys are not to be messed with. And
so it wasn't the John Wayne movie.
It wasn't the John Wayne movie, unfortunately. I saw it later on. But like, that happened. And then after 9/11, like, I wanted, like, I thought about lying about my age that night and joining up and stuff until I realized this is a stupid idea. I'm not going to.
I think that's a lot harder to do now than it was like back during World War II. Yeah. You'd see 15-year-olds lying about their age and going in.
Yeah, they just type on a computer real quick and be like, "No, you're still in high school. Go back."
Right.
but like, I found out later on, after a few months after 9/11, after Afghanistan fell and whatnot, the story started coming back, and really the story I heard was that there was this maybe 100 guys on the ground between 5th Special Forces Group, my old unit, and the CIA, and these handful of guys on the ground overthrew this whole country in a matter of weeks. And I just remember thinking, like, taking a look at this and thinking, man, this is, whoever these guys are, I want to be one of these guys. Because I don't know how they're doing this. I don't know, like, what kind of John Rambo stuff it takes to pull something like that off, but that sounds like me. And I found out later on, it's not so much, being some muscle-bound dude that can take on 50 people at a time. It's being a smart dude that can learn how to leverage the populace there to achieve your goals, which is what they did in Afghanistan early on. And so that really started appealing to me, I think.
We talked a little bit about this yesterday when we were talking, and how everything under the United States Special Operations Command, all the different branches, they have their specialty mission. And with Green Berets, it's really being a force multiplier. Being able to go in as a small unit and create more, like, if you want to send somebody in to take over a country, politically and everything, it's the Green Berets that you use. How has learning that, how has that helped you in your life?
I'd say, if for no other reason, it's let me think smarter, not harder, and learning the value of employing what's currently there in front of you. Just as an example, with like Beacon Rescue, not long ago, we were helping to organize a search for a young man that went missing out in Houston County. And, we could have physically gone out there ourselves and looked for this guy, but we would have been maybe 10 people looking on our own. But you had a whole community of people that were wanting to go look for this kid. So we were better off just being those 10 people in the background, helping to kind of direct those people. And now, instead of having 10, you got maybe 100 people out looking for them. You just 10 times, 10x your commitment right there, your effectiveness. So I guess what that really taught me to do is kind of think outside the box and not just think that your direct actions are the only ones that are going to achieve an effect. You can make your direct actions or you can make your secondary actions, so to speak, working through other people will, exponentially increase the amount of effectiveness you're going to have. And so I think that's really kind of the big lesson I learned from being a Green Beret.
I wonder how, this might be totally off base in what I'm thinking, but, when you think about the Great Commission, it's being a force multiplier for Jesus.
Yeah.
And using those skills that you have now, that you spent the past 20 years developing, and being able to win people for Christ, and doing that through Beacon Rescue and everything else. Have you even thought about that, or how that can apply?
A little bit. It's kind of interesting. I think I saw maybe a book or something like that at one point talking about when Jesus, told the 12 disciples to go out. It's funny because a special forces detachment is 12 guys. And so
Yeah.
you got 12, I always kind of found that to be ironic or something. I don't know. But that's effectively what he did, in a way. Like he said, go out and
He had his A team out there.
he had his own A team.
So I heard you mention a little bit ago that I think your grandfather was a pastor.
Yep.
So what kind of influence did you grow up going to his church, or were they close? Or
Yeah, so my originally my parents didn't go to his church. He was an independent fundamental Baptist, which is a very old school, very strict.
probably everything King James version?
Exactly, everything had to be King James. You had to wear a suit and tie to church every time. I showed up to a kids function in shorts one time, and everybody lost their mind on me. But
I wouldn't fit in there.
But like my folks, we went to Second Baptist Church in Springfield, Missouri. It was a Southern Baptist church, and I went there until about freshman year, and then me and my sister, for whatever reason, just wanted to start going to Grandma and Grandpa's church, so we went there at my grandfather's, and so I got to kind of experience that a little bit too. And I'm really glad I did, because it took me from just seeing one perspective of church to another one now, and I had those two different experiences to kind of lean on in life, so to speak.
That's kind of fun. You say Second Baptist, you just don't hear that a whole lot. And it's not that there's anything different. It was just the Second Baptist church that was founded in that town.
Yep.
But it sounds kind of funny. Like you got First Baptist. You got First Baptists in every community. You don't have a Second Baptist in all of them. A lot of them, they just choose a different name.
I was wondering, it's like an inferiority complex or what? Like we're not number one, but yeah, it was, it worked out.
So you talked about you went to church with your parents and you started going to your grandfather's church. When did you accept Jesus?
I was 6. I was extremely young, and a lot of the thing had to do with seeing my sister already be led to Christ through my parents.
Is she older?
She's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, following that example, being the second one, I think I kind of I was in a hurry to go do it myself. And so I think I was saved at 6, and I think the next year I was baptized.
Okay. We talked about this last week with our guest. It was my friend named Mike Manus, and his son is 9 and was recently baptized. And something our church does, when a child accepts Christ, they go through a new Christians class. We didn't have anything like that when I was a kid, and I'm guessing you probably didn't have anything like that either. No. When Foster was a kid, didn't have that either. So, you make that decision, and then you're just kind of like, as a kid, it's sometimes overwhelming maybe, or you just don't really know everything that you just committed to. And I think our church does a great job with the New Christians class, and I'm sure there's a lot of churches that do that now.
Yeah.
When you made that commitment, when you accepted Christ, as you grew older, you're like, man, I don't know everything I did this in.
I definitely didn't fully appreciate it until later on, for sure. All I knew is there's heaven, there's hell. I don't want to go to hell, so let's do this.
Right.
And as a young kid, that's maybe all you can comprehend at the time. So like that's something just as a parent, like me and my wife have kind of I wouldn't say we struggled with, but we discussed quite a bit. Like, do we want our kids to come to Christ that young, or do we want them to kind of wait until they're at an older age when they might be able to come to this on their own? And it's great. Like my oldest actually has, like she, at our church we actually baptized them, so I got to baptize her last year. And I think what really helped in her case was you ever watch that show Superbook?
Yeah, we watch it on Right Now Media.
Yeah. My kids love that.
Have you seen that? It's a great show. If you have a Right Now Media account, it's good Bible stories. I like them.
Yep.
So
these kids will be going through, like some little thing, stealing, whatever, and then all of a sudden Superbook will show up, a Bible will show up, and next thing you know, it opens up and they get transported back in time to, witness something in the Bible, and it kind of goes through a lesson to learn there.
Is it animated?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's great.
It's a really good show.
That sounds great.
There was a version of it back when I was a kid in like the 80s, and it was like very
not good.
Now, like I think it's CBN or somebody produced it, and it's really a good program now. But
it is. Yeah, they have a few good ones, and then a few that aren't very good on there. It's like, I can't watch this.
Yeah, it's not real much.
So, you accepted Christ. What was that like for you after you accepted at 6 years old, and then, you're growing up, going to elementary school, middle school, high school? What was your walk with Christ like through that time?
I would say, was I a convicted Christian, like a very firm understanding Christ follower? No, because I was a kid. I knew I loved Jesus. I know I was a Christian. I knew I was a Christ follower. But at the same time, I think I knew that I believed, but I didn't know why I believed. And I could barely read, so I'm not reading the Bible.
Right.
Especially
King James version.
Especially King James, man. That was every year I read a new version of the Bible, and last year was King James, 2 years ago was King James. I still have a hard time grasping that.
Yeah.
But I would say like I was hitting points where my walk with Christ was the priority, and then other times there was fitting in was the priority.
Yeah.
And I think that's something kids especially struggle with because nobody wants to be the weirdo.
Right.
And I think that's something that in some ways I wish I might have waited a little longer to come to Christ. Is there anything wrong with getting saved that young? No. Or getting baptized? No, because none of that does anything. I'm of the opinion that being baptized is not a magical swim you take and all of a sudden you're going to heaven now.
Right.
It's just a profession of faith in front of the community to say, hey, look, I'm a Christian. I'm doing what Christ told me to do.
Yeah, that's what, being in a Baptist church, we don't believe that being baptized is what makes you saved. That is that public profession. And you are supposed to do it. You are supposed to have that public profession.
Yeah.
I like what you said about you want to fit in because I struggled with that. You know, I grew up in church and everything, and I wanted to fit in, but I feel like times are kind of changing to where it's easier, like to be the Christ in some ways for the younger people. I don't know if you see that Foster at all, to where it's almost more accepted right now. I think we said maybe might be like the third awakening in the country.
Yeah, I heard
recent stuff.
Yeah, I've heard some of that talk, and you see a revival taking place amongst the young people, for sure. I like what you said, Wes. Where I heard what you said. Maybe I should have waited longer. I was young like you too, and my son was probably 9. I don't remember my daughter exactly what age she was. Probably similar, but. I think the Holy Spirit speaks to people at different times and seasons in their life. I've got friends that are 30 years old that just got saved, and so I think when we're old enough to hear from the Lord and understand that it's the Lord speaking to us, then we have an opportunity. Do we accept Christ as our Lord and Savior? And if we don't understand it, we understand it to some degree, or we wouldn't have that feeling.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be sincere, whether you're 6 or you're 60. Saying, man, I know there's something I missed in my life. I don't know what it is, but something. So.
Well, how old was Samuel when he was called?
Yeah.
He was little.
Young. Yeah.
Very young. So God definitely can use a child.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. My son, I'm not going to talk a bunch about him, but it's really been neat. He helps lead. He comes with me every Sunday here and lead a group of men to pray over our church before pastor preaches and all that, and it's been neat. I've asked him to pray a few times in front of these 20, 25 men that are, the youngest ones are 30, and it's really inspiring to see him just the Lord lay on his heart a special prayer or something. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's fun seeing kids pray in general.
It is.
My daughter had it was funny when she first started praying. They're all comical when they started doing it, but she would just say, all right, dear Jesus, please protect me. There's no wolves. There's no monsters. Amen. That was the only thing she would say.
That's cool.
So we still chuckle.
Jeff still prays that way.
I do. You talked about the one to fit in school and everything. Yeah. How about when you went in the military? Because that's, this like me being in law enforcement, you want to fit in. You don't want to be the weird guy. Yep. And sometimes fitting in means you're not making the best decisions.
Yep.
Did you go through that, especially when you started going into Green Berets? Yeah.
So I would say when I was in the 101st as an engineer, I really didn't have that so much. I was very, I was still a very straight-laced guy or whatever. And, I think everybody knew me as the guy that didn't cuss, didn't smoke, didn't drink, none of that stuff. And we had a really rough first Iraq trip, so maybe it had something to do with it. We lost a lot of people, and I lost some pretty good friends. But I came back, and that's when I went to the Q course, the Special Forces Qualification course, And in there was when I started doing more of those things, because now like this is this elite unit and I want to fit in. You know, if these guys are rough and tumble, I want to be rough and tumble. You know, like hell, I'm going to be more rough and tumble. How about that? You know, like, you know, I'm going to be the elite setting the standard. And so yeah, I'd say the dumbest mistakes I've made in my life were definitely in that time period of my life. And there was a few eye openers for me, but one of them, for example, we were at a funeral one time on my team. There was a guy in our company, he was a friend of mine. He actually committed suicide. And when we were in the church there, one of my teammates hands me a Bible and says, "Here, hold this. I want to see if it catches on fire." And when he said that, I remember thinking, that's how people are thinking of me right now. Like, am I living right? Like, is this something Jesus wants to hear from? Is this something my mother would like to see right now? Let's think about that for a minute. And when time went on, I started realizing, you know, the guys I really look up to around here, they really aren't hard drinking, smoking, running around on their wives type guys. They're just good dudes. And so it wasn't until later on I realized, okay, you know what? You don't have to be this guy that's like morally not right or walking out of step with Christ to fit in here. And as time went on, I realized you don't have to be, and B, if you did have to be that way, is this really where you even want to be? And so as time went on, I started realizing that, you know what, man, it's okay just to be you. And if that's not okay with them, then go somewhere else. It turned out to be okay with them.
I've heard Jeff say this a few times, that he doesn't want to hear the guys at work say, "You go to church?
Yeah.
Really?" Or something like
Which
that.
that sounds kind of the same thing where, you know, hands you the Bible, see if it catches on fire. It's like, if you'd have told them, "Oh, I go to church," we're like, "What? Are you serious?"
Yeah. Right.
I know you don't. We're still out when church starts. We're just getting in when it's time to begin to church from a wild Saturday night.
Yeah, you smell like liquor at church. What do you?
Yeah. So you had that happen. I don't know. Did it take a while for it to really sink in and start changing you, or was it like snap right there? I got to change.
It took a long time. I went through a lot of, like, you know, personal things here or there, like my ex. That's a whole story there where she passed away years ago. That's a whole other story. But I would say if there's really one big event that really got me close to my faith, it'd probably just be the general year of 2021 when so starting off the year, now, like, you know, I'm fast forwarding, I'm married and I got 2 kids, or I got a wife and she's pregnant. And we were early in the year, we found out my mom had cancer. And my mom was one of the big examples for me to follow in my life, so to speak. And they told her she had 2 years if she had chemo. If she didn't have chemo, she had maybe 1 year. And so she did like a 1 round of chemo and then decided she's not spending the rest of her life this way. So she's going to come off chemo. And, you know, that was a big testing moment for me personally, where I was thinking, like, I don't know where to turn right now. I had read my Bible cover to cover some years earlier. I think it was in 2012. I did one of those year in the Bible, 1 year Bibles. And I remember the book of Job was about suffering, and I didn't really know all the whys. I had a hard time telling you what the big moral of the story was, but I was going to find out. So I didn't want to read my Bible because I'm too lazy to read, but I'll go on YouTube and look up what does that mean. And I stumbled on this thing called Bible Project. And Bible Project does really good breakdown videos of every book of the Bible. And so I look up Job, and it starts, you know, dissecting Job. Next thing I know, I'm thinking, okay, well, what else? Let's read into other books of the Bible I might have had some questions about. It's when I found Ecclesiastes, and that's probably my favorite book of the Bible now. And more and more, the more I was learning, the more I wanted to learn. And so that got me into reading my Bible daily. And so then all of a sudden, fast forward a little bit, Afghanistan is falling, Kabul falls, right? And me and some friends are helping people evacuate just over the phone. So they would, through social media or however, we would end up getting in touch with a veteran that was trying to get a guy out. We would make contact with that person. We'd try to find a person that was working one of those gates at HKIO was the airport, Hamid Karzai International Airport. And we would basically try to make a link-up plan between the person trying to evacuate and the person at the gate. And that was working somewhat effectively until until the pullout happened, and then we still had people on the ground that we were trying to get out. And at one point, and these people are they're Muslims, you know, they're not Christian. At one point, I was kind of having somewhat biblical discussions with them, like more so than I normally would on the ground when I'm deployed somewhere. And like I was saying, like, I'm praying for you guys, God be with you, that kind of thing. And at one point, one of the guys hits me up on like a side chat, and he says, "Hey, Mr. Wes," he goes, "So you're a Christian, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, Can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "So you're a Christian, but you only believe in one God?" And I was like, kind of confounded by that. I'm like, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, I thought you guys believed in three gods, like the Trinity." And so I didn't realize, like most Muslims think that Christians are polytheists because of that. And so I was trying to explain to him, hey, this is what that means. And I found myself having a hard time explaining that. And so that kind of motivated me more to go in my Bible deeper. So when people came to me with questions like that, I'd be able to answer them. And so those things right there kind of led into me really diving deeper into my faith. And as the year went on, more and more weird stuff was happening. I was really being tested just as far as mental endurance goes with the withdrawal. We're still trying to evacuate people. And my mom still got cancer. All of a sudden it was January now it's January 22. She ends up dying from the cancer. And then 12 hours later, her mother passed away as well. So we got this just double dose of just kicking the teeth. And to make things worse, we had to put our dog down like 2 weeks earlier. So just January of 22 was just the worst month ever. And so like I was really just kind of beside myself. But now I found myself looking more in the Bible for answers, or if not answers, at least comfort. Because what I learned about Job is that Job never gets a reason why he suffered. He really doesn't. He more than anything, God just tells him like, hey, I am this almighty being. I have a plan for this cosmic thing in front of you, and you're a small part of that. But just understand, I'm in control. That's the moral I got out of the book.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I really got any comfort, but I felt like I was at least secure enough in my faith that I could have the faith of God being in control, and that ultimately is going to end up good. And so that's where I think I kind of landed more or less. But I think if I didn't have that from like just my daily Bible readings and whatnot, I would have a really hard time of getting through that. And then what made it really, almost kind of like a cherry on top of an interesting year was a few months later, I got to go to Israel for the first time with work. And now I got to physically see some of these places with my own eyes. And I got to see like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Wailing Wall and Dead Sea and like all these places that I just read about.
Yeah.
That was so cool that if nothing else, now it's coming alive to me. And now it became less of an interest and more of I don't want to call it an obsession, but just like an extreme interest.
Yeah.
And that really helped out.
I guess too, you having faith and your mom just passing, you felt, I'm sure, some peace knowing that she was with the Lord at this point. You said she had been a big impact on your life and your spiritual walk, and now she's gone, and you're like, well, I know where she is.
Yeah. And it's almost strange. I think that did help out more than anything else in reading the Bible was, even like Revelation, for example, which is, not a book people think about when you're thinking about hope,
Yeah.
But the promise at the end of there is that, God is going to return us to the garden, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And now effectively mom's in the garden.
Yeah.
Like she's in that place that we all want to be, that God intended us to be. And, and I think that really gave me a sense of comfort that if I didn't have that, I would just think, well, mom's worm food. Well, I'm waiting my turn.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Man, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, you talked about how, you're going through this and you've gotten back on your walk with Jesus and everything. How do you think if you'd have done this a few years earlier and had this basically horrible month of this year, 4 or 5 years prior to this, how would you have handled it then?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Alcohol?
Maybe, unfortunately, because, having kids, I think, definitely changes things to a degree. But if it was just me and I didn't have the family, maybe I would go on a more immature route and,
Yeah.
and turn to alcohol or turn to, frankly, I think what I found a lot of times that really helped me to get my mind off of my current situation was to bury myself in work. So I probably would have tried to volunteer for another deployment, get out of the town as soon as I could, just not have to deal with my present circumstances. You know?
When you're going through this, with your mom passing away, your grandmother, your dog having passing away too, and it's just a hard time. And then you have the stuff in Afghanistan going on with people that you're close to that worked with you, you know, hand in hand working with you. You have, you know, the Afghan people there, and you're seeing what's going on. Did you have other people in your life you could go to that were, you know, y'all could support each other maybe?
Yeah, well, I think for one thing, so I was never in Afghanistan, believe it or not. This is the weird thing. I was always either in Iraq or Syria or one of these other places, but for whatever reason, I still somehow got involved with that whole thing. But you know, what was kind of interesting though was there were a lot of people that were actually involved in the Afghan withdrawal that we ended up being really good friends. That I think I started kind of coming to them with some of these kind of issues, so to speak, and they were coming to me. So it kind of turned into a big support group in a lot of ways because, you know, you're going through something really unique and very strange. It's one of the few times I can remember crying in the last 5-6 years was when I'm on the phone with some guy who he got separated from his wife and his kids. They were, I think, if I remember right, he was going, basically there was like a Taliban checkpoint before you get to this gate. And his wife, who was pregnant, was beaten with a cable, and they weren't going to like a big, you know, cable for like the street or whatever. And they kind of had to make the hard call, like, okay, do we try to get Dad out and see if Dad can then get the rest of the family out, or do we all stay here? Because if Dad stays here, he's getting killed. He's already getting threats. And so they made the call. All right, Dad's going to get out, and then see where we can go from there. And this guy, he's waiting somewhere. I think he's in Spain or something like that, just kind of, you know, waiting his turn to get to the U.S. And he's just losing it and saying, you know, he's breaking down, crying, saying, why won't anybody help me? Why won't anybody help me? This is, you know, I've been shot for this country. I think he's actually been wounded or something like that. And, you know, now, you know, no one's helping my family. And that just, for whatever reason, that really just tore the heart out of me. And it kind of messed me up to a degree. And so my wife sees me. I don't think my wife understood how important this was to me until she saw me breaking down crying at that moment. And it really got to me. But then you fast forward, I got another friend, Tom, who he was very convicted about another person. This was like a 6-year-old boy who had actually been shot in the face at that checkpoint, somehow survived. And Tom worked his tail off for probably over a year, I think, to get that boy home. But he eventually got him home, he got him to the U.S. And now the kid, he's an American. I don't know if he's a citizen, but he's, you know, gone through like Ronald McDonald House or something like that to get reconstructive surgery and stuff like that. But I say all that to say, you know, I had a guy like that who was going through something very similar, who we were able to kind of lean on, and then, you know, out of that kind of, you know, draw strength from and talk about our faith about and things like that helped me get through. Yeah, I'd talk about my faith to other people going through the similar things, and they were like, don't want to hear it, don't care. And I'm like, okay, that's you, no problem.
Yeah.
But, if Foster asked me one time when I was going through some stuff, and I had good, strong Christian men I could turn to and talk to, he goes, what would you do if you didn't have that? I'd probably go to the wrong people.
Yeah.
And gotten advice that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's kind of the same thing, you know, different circumstances. I don't know, you know, in my line of work, of course, is different than what you've seen because you've gone overseas and everything, but the amount of evil that people are capable of,
It's nuts.
I don't know that really the general public is just that aware of it. And you'll see some guys, they lose all faith because of what they see. And I heard it was another military guy talked about somebody he was deployed with losing, and how can a God be like this? And it's like, what's the opposite of the evil? Yeah. It's love, it's caring. So you got to, if you have one, you're going to have the other.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly how he put it. It was much more eloquent and made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's true though. I mean, you do see good also. You see people helping others. You know, y'all are trying to do good by helping these people get out of there when they're just facing some of the most evil, hard to imagine conditions ever.
Yeah. It really would. Like I always said, like, I don't want to get political or anything, but at the time I was saying that, you know, I've never been so ticked off in my government, but I've never been so just like proud of the people. like so many people just stepped up. But yeah, like we saw in one of the chat groups one day, because this is all being done on Signal, on the messaging app. Like
I felt really cool the first time I was on Signal. I felt like I was like CIA or something. Yeah. I felt so cool.
Got the super cool free app.
I did, yeah.
But everything was being done on that because it's encrypted. Someone shared a video in there where it was basically someone getting their throat slit. And I never actually saw anything like that in person. I saw other violent things, but that one, for whatever reason, really stuck to me because it's just very graphic and very disturbing. And I don't know, just something about seeing that evil really ticked me off. But then at the same time, knowing that, okay, there are at least people trying to help this person so that they have a way out. That guy, okay, we couldn't help that one, but you help the ones you can, and then trying to beat yourself up about the ones you can't. That was kind of where we came from with that.
I remember this wasn't evil, but it was an example of people stepping up. But when we had the floods in North Carolina and stuff back a year or two ago, I lose track of time, but I fly little airplanes for fun. But a lot of people in the airplane community were taking their airplanes and their fuel and just packing in materials, water, diapers, food to help these people. And it was just a great reminder that there are plenty of good people left in the world. There are evil people. Yesterday, some evil doer ran his truck through a church and opened fire and set the church on fire. And man, that's just that we can thank the adversary for that crap.
I think so too.
But man, there's so many good people around, and you're right, Jeff. The general public doesn't understand, or including myself, about all the evil in this world. But grateful for you guys that keep us safe, for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So when you're getting back on your walk with Jesus, you're still an active Green Beret at this time. What kind of changes did you see for not just you, but like you're an E8, so you're basically a team leader, right?
Yeah, I was a team sergeant.
So what kind of changes did you see, not just for you, but for the guys that you're leading when you started following Jesus more closely and getting back on the right path?
So I think, for one thing, it made it to where I was much more comfortable talking about that stuff in front of people, which I think, you'd have to ask the guys that were under me as to whether or not that made it more comfortable talking about, hard topics in front of me or something like that, or coming to me when they had an issue. But I always told myself, like, I'm not going to betray my values or betray my walk with Christ in my job, whatever that means. I'm always going to put integrity first, so to speak.
Does being in that leadership role make it easier because you're kind of the boss?
You're the boss now, yeah. And the thing is, especially in that job, it demands the highest performance. So you have to be okay with firing people and disciplining people and letting your mean side out.
Yeah.
But what I learned was that you don't have to necessarily betray your walk with Christ in doing so. You can still keep things professional. You can still, correct a person when they're messing up and not necessarily be like the bolsterous, yelling guy,
Right.
There's a time and a place for that. Don't get me wrong. If somebody's about to touch the hot stove, I'm just going to throw a hammer.
Yeah, you got to yell. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll apologize later.
Right.
But yeah, I do think that it definitely helped me keep things in the proper perspective. Especially because, like, I think my favorite book in the Bible, especially being a Green Beret, is Ecclesiastes. Part of that because, to me, I think the big lesson of the book is be careful what you let your identity be consumed by. And when you're a Green Beret, probably the same thing for a Navy SEAL or a Marine Raider or whatever, you almost have to let your identity be consumed by that job just to get there. And then if you want to stay there, you have to commit a major portion of your life to it just to stick around and keep up. So I think for me, in a leadership role, I kind of felt like it was my job to then keep in mind that I don't want these guys to only have this. One day they're not going to have it, and then they're going to lose their identity when they leave. So I kind of felt, as a leader, my job was almost not my job, but a part of my job was to demonstrate to them like what work-life balance is, even though there's really no such thing in the military, especially when in the elite units like that.
Were you able to see your leadership and your walk with Christ have a direct effect on anybody where maybe it helped lead them to Christ?
I actually had quite a few believers there where I was.
I mean, obviously Andrew put us together.
Yeah.
Because of your walk, and he knew, what you're doing and everything, and thought it would be a great fit. So he saw it. I mean, I know he's an officer and everything, but and I don't know if y'all were on the same team or what.
So we we met at a Bible study, believe it or not, and we were both in fifth group, but we weren't on the same team or nothing like that. I think we were the same battalion, but maybe different companies. But no, I had. Just an example. I don't think I ever necessarily led someone to Christ. If I did, I didn't know about it. But I think for example, there was one guy who he had a father in like a really bad spot. His father was about to. It looked like he was about to pass. Thank God he didn't. He actually pulled through, but at the time it looked like he was in a bad spot and he was about to pass. And this guy was about to go to this course that we have that it's like a prerequisite course to be in the certain unit this team that we were on, and it's a hard one to pass. But this guy was a shoe, and he was going to make it no problem. But now we're kind of in a point where we're having to decide: okay, do we have this guy just go ahead and go to the course, or do we send him home to be with his parents? Like, his dad's possibly on his deathbed, and he's like saying, just let me go for like a weekend, go see him, and then I'll go to this course, blah blah blah. I'm just kind of like, I'm having the alarm bells in the back of my mind going off like, hey, like he doesn't need to be doing that. He needs to be taking care of his mom right now because his mom doesn't know where to turn right now. She needs a shoulder to cry on. She needs you. So, like the leadership conundrum there for me was, do I do what's good for the unit in this case, which is send this guy to this course to get our numbers up to what we needed for that course, or do I do the Christian humane thing to do and let this guy tell him to go back to his house? I don't tell him go be with your mom. Like that's where you need to be right now, man. And he might still curse me to this day. I don't know, but I feel like if Jesus was there, he'd probably say,
that's the right decision.
That course will be there next time.
Right.
You need to be at home with your mom.
Yeah. How has you seen your walk and being where you are now? How has that affected your relationship with your wife and your kids?
I would say, I think if you don't have a walk with Christ, raising your kids is going to be exponentially more painful. Not that I have a magic thing where I just point to the cross on the wall and my kids get in line or nothing like that, right? That's not the case. But I think that if you want your kids to come up to be Christians, to be Christ followers, to be, the kind of person that people will look to for, Christian advice, whatever, it starts in your own home. It starts with your example. So I think if nothing else, then that's probably the way to go. Like I said, my oldest has already been baptized now, and she's a Christ follower like I've never seen. She's, the loudest singer at church. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing. But for my wife especially, when we first met, she didn't, she wasn't a believer when we first met. And we had a talk early on where she was saying, I don't believe in Jesus. And I said, well, I'm going to be honest, it's kind of a problem for me. So we that wasn't the breakup talk, right? But I think there was kind of the understanding hey, this is only going to go so far, if not, because this is a big part of who I am. And it's going to cause problems if we aren't on board with that. And I remember the pastor I had growing up saying at one point, he's saying, if you marry somebody that's not a Christian, trust me, you're going to have problems. It's some households make it work, but it's probably because they don't have Christ at the center of their home to begin with.
Well, Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 says, the first half is talking about sex, so I won't even go into all that, although that'd be fun. But the second half of chapter 7 says, if you're a man and you're married to a woman and she's not a believer, recognize that you might help lead her to Christ. And wife, if you're married to a man who's not a believer, stay with him. But if they insist on getting out, let them go, because you should live in peace. But it's interesting. I'm not going to say what I was fixing to say, but it's a great privilege to be married to somebody who's not saved and then see them come to know the Lord. It's part of God's will for your life and her life.
I'll tell you, what's been great for me is seeing how she's developed over the years. She's probably I don't know, more committed Christian than of the two of us at this point. I'd probably say like she's very, I don't know, it's like we got this small group that we go to right now with this group of people that we love to death. And like now we're studying this, we're going through this study on Revelation together, and she's done all the readings before I have.
That's so cool.
It's so cool that now she's kind of taking up the mantle of matriarch for the Christian faith in the family. It's just too awesome.
That's cool. I wanted to ask one question, kind of going along with what Jeff had just asked you about how being a Christian has affected your family life. But as far as just a practical, if a guy's listening and he's like, man, I don't know how to look like or be a Christian in front of my family, or, what does that look like for a dad? Is there anything just practical that you could tell somebody that because they are a follower of Christ, they should do this and let their family see them do it?
For me, it's been reading the Bible.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if there is one thing to come out of that 2021 experience for me, it was that it got me very consistent in Bible reading. And so I found, YouVersion, that app.
Oh, yeah. I use it.
I use it daily.
It reads
now.
to you also.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, I'm lazy, so it reads to me.
I'll have it read to me in the car when it's hooked up to my CarPlay. It's pretty great.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I would go through there and I'd find one of those Bible Project readings, and I started off, every year I do a different translation now. So I think the first 2 years in a row, I think I did New Living Translation, then I did like King James, and then the Message, and this year I'm doing NIV. But like, I think your kids seeing you have that time. Like I go to my little sunroom, I have my morning coffee, and this year I'm doing, I don't know if you know the Bible recap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing that year
Yeah.
through with the Bible recap. And they see me every morning doing that stuff, and they just know it's Dad's Bible time. So I
It's
think
important to my dad. My dad's not only a Green Beret and a man of, great strength, but he's also a man of God. So that's cool, man.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Leadership by example is the best time for leadership.
Yeah, for sure.
I use the app all the time, and I'm not downing the app, but something our pastors have said here is also have your hard copy.
Yeah.
Because if all you're using is the phone and your kids see this, like if I'm just sitting here and I'm holding my phone up to me right now, you don't know what you're on. I could be scrolling Facebook. I could be looking at the Bible. So have that actual physical copy of the Bible too. So like I teach a men's class here, so every week when I'm doing that, I make sure to have my actual Bible out there so that it's seen. And my kids see me looking through that. And I think that sends a message to your family. And it's very important, to have the man in the house setting that example, especially if you have sons. But even for a daughter, because you want them to look for a future spouse that will do the same thing.
100%. Yep. It just kind of interesting too. Like I think we found my mom's Bible after she passed. It was kind of cool opening up and going through it and seeing things she'd underlined and notes she'd taken in there and whatnot. And it kind of made me wonder, like, okay, what led her to do that? And so that sometimes that then gets me to thinking, well, let me go read through this passage right here and see if I can figure it out for myself. There's something to that for sure.
Yeah, being able to look through the Word of God and see notes. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, we talked about some of your struggles. What was the hardest thing that you went through trying to become a Green Beret?
Man, I was bad at a lot of stuff. So becoming a Green Beret, I didn't know how to take care of my feet properly prior to going to what's called selection. So you start off, you go to what's called Special Forces Assessment and Selection, SFAS, and it's like the tryouts. It's like trying out for the team. And if you make it through that, then you go to what's called the Q course, the Special Forces Qualification course, which varies in length depending on which job you get, which specialty and what language you have to learn. I was a French guy and I was an engineer, so I had a relatively short course compared to a lot of people. But in the selection course, a ton of it is just walking through the woods with a map and a compass and a really heavy rucksack on a big backpack. And I did not understand like how to take care of my feet. So I'm showing up with like old socks that have like holes in them and whatnot, and they're the perfect size. Well, you're putting so many miles on your feet are going to swell. So my feet barely even fit in the boot anymore. Like my toes are scrunched up to the front of it. And man, like my feet look like hamburger like 2 weeks into it, and so I am suffering walking through the woods of North Carolina. Finally, by about the third week, like we're going into what's called Team Week, when they just find fun ways to torture you. Finally, my feet were starting to callus over, and I could actually walk without being painful. And so, if any advice I could give to anybody is take care of your feet. But,
Yeah. Did you ever? What is it? Where you're doing the air traffic JTAC?
JTAX.
Did you do that also?
I didn't do that. So I was there long enough to have a lot of strange specialties. I showed up to a team. I went to a scuba team, and so they sent me to scuba school right out of the gate, which is the hardest school. I'm convinced, hardest thing I've ever done. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of breath holding stuff, a lot of treading water with weights over your head, tying your hands and feet together, and sending it in the water, that kind of thing. And then like long ocean swims, underwater, all kinds of wild stuff. So that was definitely the hardest thing. Well, the hardest school I think I've ever done. But then I got to go into a team that kind of specialized in like counterterrorism, like CQB. It's almost like a SWAT team type thing.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But like I was a sniper for a little while, and I had like a really cool experience in that I got to kind of dabble in a lot of different things and get a lot of really unique experiences a lot of people don't get. So I was pretty fortunate.
And what is like you go through selection? Isn't it about 3 years of training that you're in before you actually go to your team?
So for me, I actually went at a really weird time. So this is when Iraq was like at its peak. So they were trying to crank people out as fast as they could because they were, taking casualties and whatnot. So, and they were building onto the group. They were building up a whole 4th battalion, making it bigger by like a quarter. So they condensed it a little bit. So I really like the lengths of the course were about the same, but the wait times in between were down. So I remember for me, the Q course was right at 1 year, but I had a short MOS and a short language. So I was a engineer, which meant I was the explosives guy, and also knew for things construction. But I also had a language as French. But you had some guys that were medics, which that's like a year of training right there. So you're looking at like a 2-year course just to be a medic. Then they have a long language on top of it, like Mandarin or Arabic or something like that. Those guys, they were there for 2+ years easily.
How fluent are you in French?
There was a time I was pretty good, but it's now
You
it's
lose
gone.
it if you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly. Well, and for me too, I decided one day I was going to drop French and pick up Arabic. I never got Arabic down, but all it really did was muddy up my French. So now I just walked
Now
around.
you speak French with an Arabic accent.
Exactly.
That's great.
Oui, je parle un peu.
How did that prepare you for life? I would think this kind of we talked about football prepared you for the military.
Yeah.
Did that build on your perseverance and knowing that you're going to make it through things, or has it helped you?
I think what it taught me was everything in life is just a problem to solve. Like there's no such thing as like a task out there that there's no answer to. There's just varying costs to the solution, so to speak. So what it really taught me how to do is not get overwhelmed by the problem. Just take a step back, take a breather, and then just come up with a plan on how you're going to tackle it. And that really put things in perspective for me, I think. Especially like the Afghanistan thing. If you told me to like evacuate a bunch of people from halfway across the world, from home, I would have been like, there's no way to do that. But just being like going through like that course and stuff like that, I think it really taught me how to just list out what your problems are and then be like, all right, here's how to solve that one. Here's how to solve that one. Here's how to solve that one. Next thing you know, you got a solution.
I think that's one of the hard things for people when we go through a hard time. Sometimes we tend to spiral a little bit when we're faced with something really tough. I went through a divorce when I was younger, and it's hard. But you don't really get that perspective till sometimes years later. But if you're able and mature enough to take that step back, which I was not at the time, and I don't think I would be now.
Yep.
But it helps so much just to be able to take a step back and try to look at it rational.
Yep. And
that's what kind of hurts us a lot of times is we don't have rational thoughts when we're in the midst of chaos.
I can't remember where I learned it from, but someone taught me a long time ago, like, hey, if you're ever in a situation where it's just like fear's overcoming you or whatever, like this one time a sniper was shooting at me and I was kind of paralyzed in fear for a second, right? What I learned how to deal with that is, okay, get behind cover, get safe for a second, right? And then just take a second and breathe. Like don't try to like rush to a decision on anything. Just breathe. Because to think about it from like a physiological perspective, right? What's happening when you're all amped up? You're so jittery, you're not thinking clear. But if you just take a second and get a little more oxygen in your system, okay, now we can calm down and make a rational decision as opposed to just snapping to something that's going to get us in deeper trouble ultimately. So like I think there's definitely something to not rushing to failure.
I think as Christians everywhere, when Jesus was on the cross and he said, "Tetelestai, it is finished," it gives us a lot of hope, and the way we respond to things that happen in life. What you said a minute ago, there is a cost for everything. There's a solution to everything. It's how big is the cost, and for believers, our solution to everything is Jesus dying on the cross, and the price was already paid. We just sometimes in the midst of the crisis we forget that, hey, the price has already been paid.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate what you said.
Well, to go back on what you just said too, I might be changing topics here, whoever, sorry if I am, but like I think that's something that took a while for it to sink in for me, was
Me too.
that the price has already been paid.
Yeah.
And like think about it from just like taking a step back, and taking a look at just faith in general. Like, so let's just say you could earn your way into heaven. Then why did Christ die on the cross? What was the point of that? Did God just want to see him suffer? No, it's because you can't work your way in this.
Yeah.
Now, to me, I think this is my fifth go around on, or I guess sixth, whatever, go around on the reading the Bible through the year. I'd say the big lesson of the Old Testament in general is that man cannot save himself. Like it's just impossible. Like God gave man in the wonderful book of Leviticus that is pretty hard to get through every year.
Yes, it is.
A very stringent set of laws to follow in order to get perfect in his presence. Right? Not a single person in the history of mankind has ever been able to pull that off. Mm-mm. Therefore, you're going to need someone to come and be a permanent solution for you.
Yeah.
And so I think to me, like that's a very, a very humbling thing, and also a comforting thing to me that, like, I'm not waiting for that guy to come and wash away our sins. He already did it.
Right.
And that to me is something that I think is very, it gives me a lot of hope.
Gives me a lot of hope too. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I ask everybody that, and I don't know if this is something you're into. You wore a Green Beret. Are you into guns?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite gun that you have?
That I have? I got an AR that I love. Like, it's my baby. It was my retirement gift.
So it's because of sentimental value then?
Yeah, like
it's not because an AR, you can go get ARs all over the place, but this one was your retirement gift.
It was my retirement gift, and it's something, that's definitely the gun in life that I have the most rounds through, right? So that's what I'm most comfortable with. It just feels a certain way in my hands and whatnot. So
it's fun because I ask all the men that are into that, or they're either into hunting or something else, and it's never like Foster has some different guns, and some of them are quite a bit more expensive than others, but it's never the most expensive gun that is their favorite. It's the one that has some kind of sentimental value to it. Like you said, that's your retirement gift. It's something a grandfather gave or something like that. That is always the favorite one.
Oh yeah,
and I find that kind of cool.
What's yours?
So I have two. One is a single shot 22 that was my dad's, and it's old. It's not worth anything. And then I have a Marlin 30-30 that was my grandfather's.
Old dear.
And I really like that Marlin 30-30 lever action because it makes me think of the Rifleman. I used to love watching that show when I was a kid. But yeah, it's one or both. One of those. This kind of goes back and forth between those two.
Yeah. My grandpa had old Winchester lever action that I wanted that thing. My cousin got it.
I mean, they're just cool. It's just a cool gun.
They are cool.
You said you don't read much. Do you have anything, and we'll get to your favorite Bible passage in a minute, but do you have anything that you've read that's like your favorite book or anything like that?
I'm big on Audible nowadays.
I do Audible. My wife used to make fun of me for doing Audible, and she's in the car a lot, and now she does it, and we both love it. I do Audible. I'm either listening to a book on Audible or listening to a podcast. I hardly ever listen to like music and stuff.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite book?
Oh man, there's a lot of military ones that I've really liked. Like Black Hawk Down was one that kind of helped shape who I am today. I think to a degree, even though I was never in one of those units, but it got me interested in special operations. But I just finished one. I think it's Rob Chernow or something like that was the guy's name, about Grant. President / General Grant during his life. That's just kind of a cool story. I think that I wouldn't have gotten through if it weren't for Audible. But nowadays, those terminal list books.
My wife and I have done all of those.
Yeah.
Like I did them, and I'm like, hey, listen, and she loves them. I didn't really like the show. I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Like it was so different than the book. I was like, I can't finish this. But man, it's kind of similar to the old Tom Clancy stuff. But yeah, that's a great series.
What's your favorite one in the series?
I don't know. They all kind of run together.
They kinda do.
As soon as it comes out, I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about this next one that's coming out though. That's about the pre-story of his father.
His dad. Yeah. I liked Savage Son. I think that was the one where the guy was it was kind of like a Most Deadly Game or whatever. So,
Okay, yeah. That one, man, they're all so good though, and like the guy that writes it, his name's Jack Carr, and he was a Navy SEAL, so he has like the technical side of it where he really knows like the equipment side and everything that he's talking about. But that's a great series. It's funny. I read some of the same kind, like the history. I'm currently doing one about Teddy Roosevelt, and sometimes I feel like I'm reading a textbook, and it's like, oh my gosh, can I just get through this? Because once I start one, I'm going to finish it.
yeah.
I did one. It was written by one of the guys that was part of 12 Strong, which 12 Strong was 5th Special Forces Group. And I've been told some of those guys are still like instructors, or I think they're contractors with 5th Group. They're all probably retired now.
Yeah, I have a few friends that were there. Actually, the one of the groups of people I helped get out of Afghanistan was from that mission. So I won't dime out the guy I was working with or whatever. I don't know if you want me to or not, but like one of the guys from that team was helping escort some people from that mission out, and we were able to get them through kind of in the nick of time right before the bomb went off.
That's cool.
That's definitely, it was cool for me because that was one of the things that led me to get into that unit. It's just those group of guys riding on horseback in Afghanistan, overthrowing this crazy regime or whatever.
Yeah, the one I read is called Swords of Lightning. I don't know if you've heard
by
of that.
Martin Noosh and Bob Pennington.
Yeah, and I can't see the other. I can't open it up to see the other guy's name that was on it. But it was really good and very informative as to what was going on in that. So what about your favorite Bible passage?
Lately, I'd say it changes over time, right? But like, I think lately, we just talked about it a minute ago, but probably Genesis 3:15. And
We laughed about it when we talked about it a minute ago.
100%, right? Because that's nobody's favorite Bible passage.
Do you want to read that, Foster?
Yeah, let me read it in my NLT version. Genesis 3:15 says, "And I will cause hostility between you and the women, and between your offspring and her offspring." Excuse me, between you and the woman, not woman. And between you, your offspring and her offspring.
If it was written for Solomon,
And there's a
it'd be
second part
women.
to it also.
Oh, yeah. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel.
Yeah. So I think why that means so much to me is that that's right after, the original sin in the Garden of Eden, and God's talking to the serpent and to Satan, and he's saying, basically, I'm going to send someone, a descendant of this woman, you're going to deliver a lethal blow to him, but he's going to destroy you with his blow. And that's the first prophecy we have about Jesus. And so I think what that means so much to me is that even from the first few pages of the whole Bible, God already was showing that he's got this plan to send a Savior for us to save us from that early on.
Yeah.
Who knows when that was written? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
A long time ago.
Very long time ago.
Yeah. I just totally lost my train of thought. Oh, we talked about you being a leader in the Green Berets and everything. You were the team sergeant. As you were coming up, is there somebody that stood out that mentored you?
Yeah, I really won the lottery in a lot of ways for having good mentors. I had some just amazing ones. One of them just retired, guy named I'll dime him out, whatever. Command Sergeant Major Travis Esterby. He was my team sergeant for a while. He was a very good role model to follow, just as far as just being just what a Green Beret is supposed to be. And I had other guys. I don't dime them all out, but like my original warrant officer on my first team, a guy named Chief Campagne, and he was just a beast. Like he was a guy who they were like grooming for like high level positions, and then he said, "No, I want to stay on a team, so I'm going to go be a warrant officer." So he's like the assistant officer on the detachment now. He could have been the guy running the whole show, but he said, "No, I'm going to do this instead." He wanted to stay in the fight. A guy like that was just like someone that really stuck out to me. He's just one of these dudes that I just wanted to be like. And then there was other guys too that, like, oh man, like there was on my first team when I first showed up. The sergeant major there, he was on on an assault team at the very beginning of the war that they ended up doing some just insanely crazy stuff. I think they're in the Battle of Fallujah, all this stuff. So, I mean, it's just the stuff they did was just straight up legendary. And so, yeah, I've really lucked out in a lot of ways as far as guys that mentored me.
What about your grandfather, who was the pastor?
Him, I tell you, I would say more than anything, he taught me how to be a man, like a Christian, like really both my grandfathers. They both, so my grandpa Cobb, he was that one, the pastor. He passed away about 3 years after I joined Special Forces. But I think more than anything, he really had a lot to do with just shaping me into a man who respects and loves and fears the Lord. And that was something that, even with the King James Bible, he definitely, put me on that path and kept me straight early on. It kind of got me. Maybe it was out of fear. I don't know. But
I know, like you said, he was your grandfather, but did you view him as like a strong man's man too?
I really didn't, just because he was grandpa,
Yeah, he was his grandpa then.
He was his grandpa. But, I mean, he probably could have been, He was, when he was a young sailor in the Navy, he probably was, But,
Okay, now you talked about a little bit, being in special forces is hard because sometimes you have to fire people and everything because you have a high standard.
Yeah.
And really, the standard is just one step below not meeting it. So you want to be above that standard.
Yeah.
Did you ever mentor anybody?
I hope so.
I think that's a really hard question because
Yeah.
being in your rank, you did. I mean, there's no way you didn't, even when you don't know it, because we had our assistant chief of police on, and he goes, I don't think I ever have. I go, I promise you have. You're the assistant chief of police. You were our SWAT team leader for years. You've done all this stuff. You have mentored probably no telling how many people. And it doesn't always mean it's this formal mentoring relationship. It's this, kind of take a guy under your wing. Hey, I want to show you the way.
Yeah. I think one thing that really, somewhere along the way, somebody told me this is, everywhere you go, especially in a leadership position, you're going to leave residue on people. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes you did something wrong, and people are like, well, I'm not going to do that. I've definitely made those mistakes. I know that for sure.
Amen.
But, I think, there was a few times where maybe, I did get one right, and somebody later on, I overheard him talking to someone else saying this thing, Wes did, we should do that. We should incorporate that, things like that really kind of, I think really, they leave a mark. They definitely, they give you a big head if you ain't careful. But yeah, I definitely think that kind of thing was some of the bigger compliments I've ever gotten.
Yeah. I got a question, and I don't know, it's not on here, but you had mentioned something earlier on about the human trafficking, and I know we don't have a lot of time left, but can you tell me just a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the group that I'm with, it's called Beacon Rescue, and effectively what we do is we're a sub entity under that called Task Force Sentinel, and what that does is we partner with law enforcement to help them solve trafficking investigations. A lot of it has to do with maybe just a missing kid that ran away from home, but now they're at a heightened risk for trafficking, or possibly someone that has been accused of trafficking, or a possible trafficker. What we do is we go through open source intelligence, or OSINT. We'll go online, try to find whatever digital clues we can about that individual, put together a case, and then hand that to the proper authorities to say, hey, here's where we think that runaway is, or here's some possible incriminating evidence against this guy right here that maybe you with department resources want to take a deeper look at.
Yeah. Have y'all had a lot of success with the way that you approach this? I don't know anything about the computer world, but
yeah, I think we've definitely it's definitely been a process of learning. But yeah, I think we've had some big ones that have been really really interesting. I mean, for example, we had one where this particular lady, she had a registered sex offender boyfriend who they took her 2-year-old and ran. She didn't have custody of the kid either. So they ended up running out of town. We ended up coordinating with the proper authorities. They're extremely happy to get the help. They were very forthcoming with whatever they could give us to help them out, and vice versa. And we really had them narrowed down, I think, to one of 3 or 4 locations. when all of a sudden they'd moved and they crossed the border into Mexico. And we were like, oh, great. Now what do we do? Luckily, the mom, they put out some kind of a warning to like the border patrol, to the border guards or whatever. And mom decided she didn't like that particular area she was at, or life on the run for that matter. So she tries to cross back in and she gets nabbed at the border. So luckily in that case, that kid was able to be helped. But we've had several other cases where some rather disturbing stuff happens where, a 15-year-old kid who's effectively radicalized on a site like, I think she might be just through Instagram or something, or maybe through online gaming like Roblox or something like that. One day she runs away from home, hops on a train, never to be seen from again, right? And she had been interacting with a lot of older men on Instagram and whatnot. A couple of them get rounded up, brought in for questioning. They don't know where she is. We go digging, and we find another guy that is associated with this one. End up putting together, a packet, so to speak, on that individual, handing off to the proper authorities, tell them what's going on. And, they do what they do with it. Sometimes we aren't privy to what ends up happening to it.
Sure.
Time's going on, and it's not looking good. Like, we're pretty sure this girl isn't with us anymore. And all of a sudden, one day she just pops up in a police station a couple states over and says, hey, I want to go home now.
Wow.
It just blew me away. But I think that's really been an eye-opener for me, A, as a parent, but B, as someone that talks to parents and lets them see some of the vulnerabilities that are online out there. Man, it's a whole different world out there nowadays with your kids.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I started my LLC as well, is to, talk to parents about, hey, this is what sextortion is, if you don't know. Like, it's where a kid meets someone online. It's, a teenage boy, this is a very attractive young girl down the street. She starts sending him risque photos, says, I showed you mine, you show me yours. He does. Next thing you know, surprise, I'm not really a girl down the street. I'm some guy in Nigeria, and you're going to pay me a bunch of money, or I'm going to share this with everybody on your friends list on Facebook. And there's been upwards of 40 suicides that have been conducted.
And we deal with that a lot.
Do you really?
Of people, usually a young guy, will send a picture of something, and then like, hey, you're gonna do this for me, or I'm sharing it with everybody in the local police department. It's not a lot you can do really, because they might be in another country. It's really hard to track them down. There are companies like what you're doing and stuff, and there's some other ones that have some better capabilities, but still it's a very tough thing to prosecute.
Yeah.
And very hard to track down on it. And then there's also, sometimes there's some jurisdictional issues over it too, over, where the stuff is taking place, where it's being sent to, and it gets very, very complicated.
Yeah. So, like, maybe this isn't your area, but what advice do authorities have for people? I mean, I know I tell people, but what do you guys? First of all, don't share photos.
Yeah, don't share photos because you don't know where it's going. And once it's out there forever.
Yep.
Is not to share photos. I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And for parents, know who your kids are talking to. That's really hard. You got all these, like we were just talking about Signal. It's encrypted and everything, but then you got stuff like Snapchat and they say Facebook's for old people now. I don't even know what all else is out there.
Yeah.
But really be a good parent.
Yeah.
Be involved in your kid's life. Explain to them the hazards of doing certain things.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be tempting because, young guys, young girls, you get tempted pretty easily.
Yeah.
They don't think that always the 40, 50-year-old guys know what they're talking about, but we've lived it.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe not in the digital age, but we are now. We're seeing the repercussions of it.
That's why at my LLC, we started a little course we call Smart Parent. And one of the things you come out of there with is just we put together a little contract between parents and kids when it comes to a phone and then just internet use. Little things like, okay, hey, where does this phone sleep at night? Because it ain't sleeping in your room.
Yeah.
I'd say more often than not, and a lot of people don't realize this, like most of the sextortion incidents and things like that happen when a kid has internet access in a closed environment like that, in like either a bedroom or maybe a bathroom. So I tell people, like, have a certain time of night where, okay, you're done with the phone, now it's going to mom and dad's room and it doesn't leave there. If it does, you're in trouble.
And it's hard, you have to buy them the old school alarm clock and everything because, like I use my phone as an alarm clock, but I'm also an adult.
Yeah.
But something I have 4 kids. I have a 21-year-old son, a 19-year-old daughter, and then an 8-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter. The 8-year-old and 6-year-old don't have phones now, but like when my son was in high school, him having his phone, he'd end up staying up all night.
Yeah.
And being exhausted the next day because he has that phone with him.
Yep.
So we got to where we had to take it away from him so he'd go to sleep like he was supposed to.
Yeah.
It's that temptation that's always sitting right there, even if you're not doing anything wrong.
Totally.
But it's there. This to be, texting or playing a game or something like that.
Well, there's a book I just finished reading not long ago, talking about favorite books. It's called The Anxious Generation. Really good one. But one of the key points in there is how there was a direct correlation between a spike in mental health illnesses, so to speak, and when the original smartphone came out. Yeah, what was that, 2009, 10, somewhere in there?
Yeah, something like that.
Like it's if you put the two charts side by side, it's almost parallel.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because you're constantly being bombarded by information.
And you're always comparing yourself to other people.
And comparison's a thief of joy.
They're putting the good stuff out there. It's not, and that's not what life is. It's not always the great things.
Yeah.
Well, and the porn stuff that's right there at your fingertips, and man, that's a pandemic in and of itself. And I guarantee you, well, I know what I was doing. My cell phone in 2010, I was looking at porn, and I know the young people today are also. So it's no good.
Try to, as we run out of time here, just to wrap things up. This is, what does being a Christian man mean to you?
I think that's a good one. It's a tough one. But,
it sounds simple, but
it
it's not.
sounds simple, right? Yeah. Well, what does it mean to be a Christian, a Christ follower, right? So I think to me that means to follow Christ, to obey his commandments, to walk the path that he wants you to walk, not the one you want to walk or you want to tell him how you want to walk. I've struggled with that in my life as well. But to actually earnestly pray to God and try to seek his will, then do it, but then also do so in a way where you're actually showing those around you, especially your family, that, hey, I am a Christ follower. I am following the path Christ wants me to walk. I ain't saying I'm doing it or I'm the best at it, but that's definitely something that as I get older, I get more serious about for sure. I think if you at least try to do that, you're on the right track.
That's great. You got anything else, Foster?
No, I think that's good. I was having lunch today with our senior pastor, Bruce Chesser, and our senior executive pastor, Bruce Raley, and I was telling him, I said, man, I get so frustrated with the men. Pastor Chesser preached a couple weeks ago about waking up, like, wake up, men, wake up, church, really. Yeah. And what you just said, that seeking the Lord's will in your own life, I have to remember sometimes that men are on, I'm talking about men because I serve in men's ministry, but men are on different levels of the sanctification process. And he reminded me today, like, if you asked me 5 years ago, what does being a Christian man mean to me, it would mean something different now than it did 5 years ago because I was spiritually at a different place 5 years ago. So it is a tough question, but it's one I think we need to understand about ourselves because of whose we are. And so
you've probably answered it in everything else we've talked about
yeah,
today.
for sure. Oh, 100%.
But then when you just get hit with that one question, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I answer that? But everything we talked about, the mentoring, the setting an example, the reading your Bible, being active in your church, all that.
Yeah.
That's what being a Christian man is.
Absolutely. It's hard to sum that up in a sentence or two.
It is.
For sure.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. That was my gotcha question, I guess.
That's a good
Even
one.
though I didn't mean it to be a gotcha question, it's like, oh, hey, let me get you there.
There's some good ones out there. That's up there with it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share? Or
Oh man, so much. First of all, thanks for having me here.
oh, thanks for coming, and thanks for driving all the way here. I mean, it's not that far.
Yeah.
Still, you made the drive here to us.
If you're in Clarksville, you're not that far from here. I mean,
Right.
You make, if nothing else, you make the Opry Mills drive once every month or two. I don't know.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I love what you guys are doing here, man. This is incredible. And just to all the guys that are out there that, if you're going through something similar to where I was, or like you were, where you have I call it your walkabout days, like if there's one thing that my old pastor taught me that I really value more than anything else he ever taught me was there's a myth that the devil likes to put out there that you have to get perfect and then come to God. And that's just a lie. It's just one of his cool tricks.
We'll never come to God.
We'll never come to God. Exactly right. Like it's like, oh, I'm going to get well and then go to the doctor. That's not how that goes. So just remember that if you're in a place right now where, okay, I'm stumbling, I'm not doing right, I got something in my life that I can't be forgiven for. That's another big one is, God can't forgive you for this sin. Bull crap.
Yeah.
God can forgive you for anything.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are or what you've done. Like, you're going to tell me the guy that created the universe and the snap of a finger or in the spoken word that you're going to tell me that he can't forgive you of a sin? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Something I want to add, we do this, and of course you're not from Hendersonville. I don't expect you to be driving from Clarksville to Hendersonville to go to church here. You're going to have to get up pretty early in the morning. But there's churches in everybody's community. Yeah. And you attend, I think you said United.
Grace Community.
Yep. I don't know where I got. Grace Community Church in Clarksville. And there's churches in Clarksville. I encourage the men listening to this, if you're in Hendersonville or close to us, come to our church. Check us out. But go somewhere.
Yeah.
Go and be in company with other Christians.
Yep. And I tell you too, let's say you go to a church and you have a bad experience. Don't think that's every church.
Right.
Because like I said,
I actually have a guy I'm talking to, and he had a bad experience at church, and I've been trying to get him to come. I teach us a men's only class at 7:30 on Sunday mornings. He was telling my wife and I had a bad experience in church. I just don't know. I'm like, well, hey, just come try it.
Yeah.
Just give it a try one Sunday morning and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you had a bad experience at one church doesn't mean you're going to somewhere else. And also, people could have just been having a bad day.
Yeah.
That is not, that one time is not a sign of what goes on there all the time.
Yeah.
We are human. We all sin. People have bad days and make bad decisions.
Yeah. And look how many examples there are in the Bible of a church that was going astray. It's full of it. Like we're in the study on Revelation right now, right? And the very beginning of Revelation, there's the letter of the seven churches, and just about all of them, he's got an issue with them, right? So just remember that, like, let's just say, like, you went to some place and you're like, I don't know, there's a bunch of hypocrites there or whatever. Okay, well, don't do that. Go someplace where people are more authentic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, studying through Corinthians right now, the church of Corinth, you talk about a church full of sexual immorality going on. Paul's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so
I don't think Paul wrote a single letter where he's like, hey, you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
End.
Yeah, no, he didn't. He didn't. And so
That's great.
It was good.
Foster, you want to say a prayer for us?
Yeah, and Wes, thanks for coming today. Thank you for your service to this country, and thank you just for your continued commitment to just help people through Beacon Rescue and your cyber business. I appreciate those things. I really do. I don't understand the computer stuff, but I know it's important. But I do understand human trafficking and the despair that people feel when they don't know where their family is. So thank you for being a part of that. Yeah, let me pray for us. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for just the time that you've given us here with Wes and Jeff this afternoon just to talk through a small part of Wes's life. Lord, I'm so grateful for the way that you're using him and able to mold his family through what they see him do, which is studying your word and helping people. God, you call us first to love you and then love our neighbors. And so I'm so grateful for Wes's life. And Lord, help us to be more like you. And as Wes said, God, make it really clear to other men and maybe even women that are listening to this podcast, like God paid the price. Jesus paid the price on the cross for us. We don't come to him fixed. We come to him broken, and through a relationship with you, Lord, that we are welcome to come into glory with you at the end of this short-term life here. So, Lord, I just pray people understand that and will open the word and come to know who you are, Lord. God, we love you. Thank you for today. Be with Aaron as he's not here today. And thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Path, a podcast production of the men's ministry of First Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Tennessee. For more information or if you have questions, please visit our website at FBCHville.com. That's FBCHville.com.